So if you were patient enough to sit through my first part one of how I got into music, hopefully you'll be patient enough to sit through part two. So continuing from after high school, during that time, after my amazing experience of the crowd yelling so loud that it hurt my eardrum, I felt like my eardrum was going to explode. I think I knew what I wanted to do from that moment onward. And during those later, I guess I say later times of high school, like in maybe grade 11 and 12, I ended up joining a band with gentlemen that were few years older than me, maybe 4 or 5 years older than me. They were way out of high school. And it was friends of one of my not next door neighbors, one of my neighbors in my complex at Mississauga by the name of Mark Agola. And he was my buddy growing up through high school. He knew how to play guitar, and he had friends that knew how to play bass, and one was a singer as well. One was Bassam on bass, and the other was Steve Gall on vocals. And they caught wind of me being a drummer and playing decently well, holding it down. And so it started into a friendship of just these guys kind of taking me under their wing. I think I was like maybe 17 or 18, and they had to have been like maybe 22, 23 at the time, which was just a crazy jump step, not only in age, but also in lifestyle. I mean, these guys could get into bars, and they smoked cigarettes and smoked lots of weed. And it was funny because Steve, his dad, worked at Benson and Hedges, the cigarette company, and he always have cigarettes and we were able to always smoke in his house. And I felt like such a badass hanging out with this older group of guys, and how they kind of like integrated me into their social circle as like this the young drummer that was just like, this is Chris, he's cool. So that was an awesome experience as far as just being able to hang with guys that wanted to play music and had me as their drummer, and I was just this young, eager, willing, player. And this was the first experience where we started writing songs, and also the first experience once we finished writing a few songs, we ended up performing them for my first ever real rock show in front of people. And I think it was a ticketed event, so it was a paid event. I don't think I saw any money, but I mean, you had to spend some money to get into the venue. And that was at Executive Snooker Club on, Burnham Thorpe and Arundel kind of area in Mississauga, the venue. I'll never forget that. And I remember a good friend of mine, Sharon Gawat, at the time, messaged all of our friends from elementary school and brought them to come see me at this show. And that was very, very cool for her to do that at the time. And that continued on for a couple years. And, just like some things kind of fade out and whatnot, but it was kind of crazy, the fact that I feel like till this present moment, I've always been in a band since I was 17 years old. Maybe I had better success in my band relationships than in real relationships, but that's another vlog. So we played our first real show, and as a drummer, and loved that. And by this time, I started kind of taking some lessons and whatnot. But also during this time, I've always dabbled a little bit in guitar. My brother was a guitar player. My father bought me the drums, and then bought my brother a guitar. And what was kind of crazy was I felt like my father was always so much more encouraging of my brother playing guitar than me as a drummer. He got my brother lessons and the guitar first, and it took a lot of convincing for me to get finally a set of drums. And it's kind of ironic that I'm the one that really took it and went down the path with it. And so my brother had a white Fender Stratocaster. Oh my gosh, it's right here. Give me 1 second. This was the one. I still have it till this day. This white Fender Stratocaster. And my dad got it because he was a big Jimi Hendrix fan and loved Jimi Hendrix in the Isle of Wight concert where he has the white Strat. So sorry, I'm having a weird flingy hair day here right now. I'll try to do this so I don't get made fun of in any comments. Back to what I was saying. So my brother was the older player who ended up, starting that. And since he had the guitar around, sometimes I dabble with power chords, playing some Green Day songs. He'd be like, "Look, these Green Day songs are so easy to play," and he'd play like these power chords, and he'd show me how he was playing them. Sorry, this is just annoying to me. I guess gotta calm this thing down. Um, so that from there, I had a little rough idea of how to play guitar, and then from there, I remember grabbing my first guitar from Walters and Square when I think I must have been like 18 or 19 years old, and learning how to play, some open chords, like reading tabs. I had to learn how to read tabs. There was no YouTube back then, kids. So the only way you were gonna learn is if like someone sat over your shoulder and like whipped your ass into shape and showed you like how to play and said that's not what you do. And there was not too much self-taught stuff unless you were really, really dedicated. Drums is one thing. I feel like you can pick up on drums a little easier to play and you kind of know what to play, but guitar was different. Guitar chords are different, open chords. And listening to that and trying to learn and also be inspired. I think one reason why I got into guitar as much as I did is a girl at the time that I was seeing who was kind of going through, we were going to go through a little bit of a love triangle kind of thing at the time. And and whenever I'd play guitar, she was a singer herself, and she thought that I had a really nice voice for whatever reason at the time. Like I said, I wasn't a trained singer at the time, and she thought she liked it when I sang. And I thought, okay, well, maybe she'll spend some more time with me if I learn some more songs, and maybe I can win her over if I learn some more songs. So I ended up learning. I think one of the first songs. Her name was Aldana, by the way, and one of the first songs that I was playing at the time that she liked was that song by Evanescence. I'm so tired of being here, stressed out all my child. Oh my God, what is it? I will not erase you scream, fight away all of my tears. You scream, oh my, all of me. Yeah, that's the name of the song. So I remember that was like one of the first songs that I ended up playing for her that she liked because the arpeggio was so easy in the beginning, and also throwing down Odana. That was a song that I used to sing a little bit too back in the day. She was Spanish, so singing a little bit of some Richie Valens, Never Hurt Anybody. So it was just, I think that was like a big inspiration to me, was just trying to impress someone on guitar, and that was enough fuel for the fire to get me to play and get me to practice. And I think when it comes to anything, you need a reason. You need a good reason to apply yourself to something, and it can't just be I want to play guitar. Sometimes that's just not enough. You got to have a good reason to do it. And I've gotten good at different various things in my life for different reasons. I think I've like identified that, and I definitely know at that time that was a good reason why I wanted to play guitar. And of course, being this hopeless romantic at the time, like this love triangle. I was also getting some Dashboard Confessional. I know. Dashboard Confessional is badass. Chris Carrabba, shout out to Chris Carrabba. As far as an artist that knew how to really put his thoughts and ideas and feelings down on paper, and you got to respect that. So that was, I guess you can say, my first learning how to play guitar and the reasons for wanting to do so. And then through this whole time, though, I was still playing drums in different bands, in various bands, and playing for people writing original music where I can contribute. I would, and but I also loved playing my covers. I also loved singing my covers. And around my early 20s, fast forward a couple years later, I ended up starting a Weezer cover band with a good friend of mine, Joe Cirillo, John Rhoda, Jackie Rhoda, her little brother, that I was mentioning in the first vlog there where we sang The Tale of New York. Her little brother ended up becoming a bassist and is now older, and he joined the band with me. And we had a drummer, Jesse Henderson, for a minute there. He was playing on drums, and started that. And I loved Weezer. I loved the Blue Album growing up. I loved just lying down. I used to fall asleep to the Blue Album every night when I was in grade 8, and I'd always listen to it from beginning to end and fall asleep by like Only in Dreams and just get like so in my head and enthralled with this song, especially like the thoughts and the I'm not trying to sound corny, but what can I say? I got like a slow dance theme tattoo on my arm, you know. And one song I used to love on that album was Only in Dreams. You walk up to her, ask her to dance. She says, hey baby, I just might take the chance. And I remember just loving these songs and the idea of like slow dancing and all these kind of things, which is going to lead me to my next point a little down the road to what I'm doing these days. But started this Weezer cover band, and we called ourselves We Res because they misspelt it in the El Scorcho video. That's off the Pinkerton album. And I remember playing and getting my first gig playing in that cover band at the Duke of Marlborough, which was around Dundas and Dixie area. Yeah. Dundas in here, Ontario, or what am I thinking here? Dundas and Cawthra in Mississauga. And of course, the one and only Marcello Camillo holding it down at the time. R.I.P. Marcello, miss ya, and I love you. Gave us the opportunity to play. And it was awesome. And these were all little things that kind of, got me to build my confidence, and also the first steps of your career as a musician. I didn't go to school for music. I had many different teachers as a drummer, so that's where I learned how to read and sight read and be able to write down musical ideas as a drummer. My guitar, I consider myself a rhythm player, pelvic shaker, and vocalist. So that was the first kind of experience of me getting up on stage as a guitarist slash singer. But meanwhile, like I said, still playing in bands as a drummer at the time. And making original music. Morning Thieves was one band that I played in, and that was with my musical brother at the time, Brian Flegg, who lived behind me in my complex. And Brian to me was the best musician that I know, probably still know. I don't, he played in the Dreamboats for about 8 years until COVID. And prior to that, I was his drummer, and I loved the way this person wrote songs, and he was inspiring to me because I always felt that if we played together, that I would be in a great band and everything would be okay, So having that as an influence of a good friend of mine, and also living so close to me. Sorry, my mouth is getting a little dry. It's almost close to midnight too. Living so close to me was just an amazing experience, and we stuck together for years playing in different bands. And I like to think that I always got him in any bands or projects that I was in. From there, I ended up joining a band called the Odysseys as a drummer, which was like this progressive kind of like prog rock band with Courtney Kewen and Joe Shirillo. Once again, they asked me to play drums, and I just been so blessed to be playing with like some of the best musicians I know. I don't consider myself a great musician. I consider myself a performer more than anything. I do my best, of course, and we put in countless hours of just rehearsal. That was like religion to us, with Brian and I at the time of Morning Thieves, which came after the Odysseys. We were rehearsing like religiously twice a week from like 9 to like 4 a.m. And I'd have to wake up the next morning and do construction and just be no sleep, just doing this. And it just, if you don't truly love what you're doing and truly love playing music, you're not going to want to do it after a while, because it's a lot of work and not a lot of payoff. And it's certain personalities and certain mentalities that have the will and drive to just keep on living as a performer. And it could be tricky. There could be a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and a lot of relationships that are positive, negative. Things can get tarnished. When you break up with a band, it's like you're breaking up with a girl you've been in love with for so long or something. It's just that it can be that same feeling. It can be that same anxiety. and it's a serious thing, you know, and it's as serious as you want to take it, you know. But I've been fortunate enough to play with a lot of great people that were really serious at what they did and really wanted to create something awesome and magical. And I've had, yeah, some awesome times with people creating music. And from that, when I was in Morning Thieves at the time, I ended up working at Long McQuaid, which is like the Guitar Center equivalent in Canada, to my American friends, and ended up meeting a gentleman by the name of Kevin Woodburn, Woody, we call him. He is he's the wizard, you know what I mean? He's the grand master. That doesn't sound good. He's a cool dude, and he was older than us, and he had this established band that went by the name of Pre-Game Show at the time, and as a drummer starting off, working retail, I joined his band, and I remember joining it also playing with Justin, who's now in the Dreamboats now. It all came full circle. And playing with him and playing in front of like crowds in bars and getting some pretty like sweaty gigs going on, and like they were the most amazing experiences growing as a professional musician. And like I said, just starting into that position of just being like, okay, I'm working at a retail store, playing in some garage bands, and all of a sudden you're like playing in venues with like hundreds of people who are losing their mind, and I'm playing like 3 sets like straight. It was just a different game, and getting paid at the end of the night. It's just like, this feels pretty good. And I played with Woody for a few years, and also helped him with his original endeavors as well as his drummer. And just like some certain things fade. But what I really loved about that experience with Woody was not only do I get to play with like Brian, Justin at times, and some pretty notable musicians in the Canadian music industry now, was that it built a confidence in me to start up my own thing and feeling like I could do this and do my own thing. And that's when I had this funny idea to start up a retro rock and roll band with my good friend Gianmarco Fiacconi here on drums. When I had that rehearsal, I had a rehearsal space that the Odysseys and Morning Thieves used to rehearse out of. And one day I invited Gianmarco and a couple of his friends that I was working with at Long McQuaid. No, I invited the Long McQuaid friends, and they invited Gianmarco. So I never met Gianmarco yet. And they came to my rehearsal space. We jammed a bunch of 50s and 60s tunes, and the rest was history. And this Beatles book that had all the Beatles songs in it was this literature that brought us all together, because as long as we knew the chords and the lyrics, we could start jamming right off the bat. So that started, and I remember we got our first gigs at open mics, just starting off, and we wanted to be all matching. We wore black pants and a gray Walmart George sweater vest with a H&M skinny tie and white dress shirt. That was the standard uniform. I wish I can show you some pictures of this if I get a chance. And that was the first experiences as the Dreamboats, and it kind of caused a little bit of resentment with some of the other bands. I'm not gonna lie. Because I think we got a lot of good attention right off the bat, confidence, and then also when you take time away doing your thing, it takes time away from everyone else's thing. So, you know, I had to get through a few hurdles to really make it happen, but that started back in 2009 is when we started the Dreamboats. And look at us now. We're living here in California, how things, change, but always just stay the same. It's kind of nuts. So this, to me, to wrap up this vlog, was my experiences on how I eventually became a professional musician, what inspired me to get into music. First vlog was what inspired me, got the spark going, and this one is what inspired me to kind of get into music as a professional performer and musician. And it's been awesome, and I hope you get to stick around for the rest of these vlogs, and there's a lot to talk about. So I'm gonna wrap this one up here because I want to keep this around 20 minutes at least, or to the max, give or take. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that it gives you good insight of what it's been for me a lot in the early part of my musical career, and how the fun has just started. This is my second vlog. Chris Hummel, I'm out.